I came here and I listened to you talk about the virtues of philanthropy, African philanthropy. And the leading African philanthropists are the Nigerian thieves who benefited from military rule and demutualization of the state, privatization of the state. The Zimbabwean state elite who benefited from some funny contracting processes, the elite in Egypt and the elite elsewhere. Wherever you turn, you cannot separate philanthropy from kleptocracy. I work for a global philanthropy, and I can safely say, without any fear of contradiction, not knowing whether I'll still have my job afterwards, that the three inseparable things are colonialism, imperialism, and philanthropy, because this country, Zimbabwe, was colonized by a philanthropist called Cecil John Rhodes, who still gives money to Africans who are proud to be Rhodes Scholars. So the history of philanthropy in this country is a history of extraction. It's a history of undermining the collective will and sovereignty of my people. My own boss made money in ways that some of you have studied. So I came here and I listened to you talk about the virtues of philanthropy, African philanthropy. And the leading African philanthropists are the Nigerian thieves who benefited from military rule and demutualization of the state, privatization of the state. The Zimbabwean state elite who benefited from some funny contracting processes, the elite in Egypt and the elite elsewhere. Wherever you turn, you cannot separate philanthropy from kleptocracy. Our theory of change has vacillated from the embrace of neoliberalism, kleptocracy, imperialism, and colonialism and neocolonialism. And all we really want is for these capitalists to show a little bit of empathy and give us money to keep beehives, to make crafts and arts, and for the African women to be able to just put a meal of food on their table. And these philanthropists can continue to invest in extractive companies that are taking away water, taking away natural resources, taking away sovereignty. Look, my friends, I'm not in the business of crumbs. No matter how beautiful or tasty they are, I'm not here for the leftovers of capitalism that is raping my country, raping our future, undermining our sovereignty. No, if that's what you are here for, stay alone. I say, oh, Brian, be practical. Okay. You should have told Mandela that, be practical. Just be a good native. Stop fighting for the liberation of South Africa. You know, then you won't go to Robben Island. Freedom is not a convenience, my brothers and sisters. So this rethinking, somebody said shifting power. I've been listening to them talking about shifting power. And I'm saying power. It's not a gear that you shift. You are shifting it how? How do you shift power between yourself and Bill Gates? Between yourself and George Soros? Between yourself and, look, my friends, you either make alternative power, disrupt existing power, right? Or ignore existing power. Please, stop using placebos. When a child comes to you and they think they are sick, they say, no, I'm not well. Then you give them something, it's not even a tablet. Yeah, and then they come and say, are you okay, baby? Yes, I'm well. And I have a bunch of African intellectuals and activists who now want to engage in the business of giving society placebos. The progressive underdevelopment of our society is because of three terrains. The terrain that accepts that black, brown, people of color, and Africans really have no notion of civilization, and therefore they need to be civilized. They have no notion of commerce, and therefore they need to be put into microfinance, microenterprise, microphilanthropy. The micromanagement and micronization of the native is also part of native intellectual genocide. They accept we can never be macro at any stage. It is impossible for us to own our own economies, the real economies, to manage our own economies, to be the real deciders of our destinies. So we are happy to have crumbs from the master's table. If this is what we're doing, then you guys are really good native commissioners, and you represent what Mamdani said, decentralized despotism. Just get another native to tell the other native, everything is gonna be all right. You know, I worked for a group, and I'm sorry, my friends from ActionAid, I worked for ActionAid International. And after some time, I discovered that we had been as ActionAid in Kenya for more than 40 years. And the same people who founded ActionAid had founded Oxfam, and we had been doing some powerful work to deal with powerful issues. And then I then asked, guys, where are the people that we took out of poverty? Because it looks like we took them, but the poverty is still in the community where we started. We built schools and even branded. We had strategies to fight poverty together, and the right to end poverty, power to end poverty. And then I joined the United Nations Development Program. And we were there empowering communities, building their capacity. The people who needed capacity built were the capitalists who kept on doing the same old things, even worse, to undermine the global ecology, leading to the ecological crisis. And we were not paying attention to the people. Steve Biko got so upset with his white liberal friends because they were always coming to the black consciousness movement, trying to help the black people have capacity. And he says, my friends, this is not racist, it's practicalist. Why don't you go and you, since you are white, and deal with your fellows? Right? So in the theory of change, the seven organizing principles that I had this week that you need to deal with are this idea of altruism of foreign, local, regional, rich sugar daddies and sugar mummies. That their private preference and personal fixations should be appreciated no matter how disconnected they are from our own developmental aspirations as a collective, as a people. Now, the power asymmetry in getting a billionaire to ask only one poor community what they want when they don't have information about what's possible, right? Sounds so good. It sounds so empowering. I come from the left. The people must decide. The local must decide. And localism in the context of power and information asymmetries becomes the worst form of enslavement. Number two, so we use power as a site, social power, political power, economic power, military power, determines the contours of philanthropy. But these also determine the contours of injustice. And philanthropy does not work except in two of those dimensions. And it is almost deliberate. When it works in technology, only 5% of philanthropy is talking about ownership of technology, and therefore leveraging the ability to become a global player from the local. Most of philanthropy is trying to help us to use technology more effectively to manage and report on our misery. And the more we use that technology, the more the billionaires that are sitting in Silicon Valley and elsewhere that own the intellectual property rights to the technology become wealthier. And when philanthropy focuses on poverty and political repression, it comes with an orthodox understanding of what is the best form of government. It is not willing to accept any other. In fact, many of the major global philanthropies emerged and started coming into the context of this African territory as a way of defending hegemonic Western interests, American interests, a particular form of governance, and to counter communism. So it did not come to diversify, to guarantee diversity. It came to ensure that one version and vision of the world was established. So, my friends, if you don't look at the racialized nature of global philanthropy, you will not understand why, when philanthropy is controlled and transacted by the same principle, even if it is being done by people who look like Brian, who are black, some of them as silver black as I am, that racialized outcomes are not dependent on the color of the person that's implementing the project or the system. And so you can be analyzing each other based on the color of your skin, but racialized outcomes are about a system that produces the same. You can produce apartheid without a single white person in the state, because applying certain principles, certain approaches, certain tools gives you the outcomes of separate development. And that is why this localism breaks. This localism is a dangerous ideology, because when Jan Smuts wanted to explain to his Oxford court why apartheid was an important thing, he said the native must be allowed to develop separately in his locality. And the white people, because they have a unique culture, must be allowed to develop separately. And then all your big professors come and say the world is a global village. If it is a global village, let's share. So this question where we say we want agency of the oppressed, give me the means of agency. And the means of agency is not just money and voice. The means of agency is the instrument. Capital is not only cash. And the idea that has gone into our artists, into our politicians, that capital is only cash, that if you have cash money, you have capital, has meant that when we're talking about shifting power, we're only talking about cash changing hands. And we even said, and it's important to do it, give us long-term funding. Even if I gave you money for 10 years, it will not shift power. It's important to give money long-term for core support. It will only create a local civilocracy, an elite in civil society who, like those of us who work for the empire, begin to drive the same cars, drink the same drinks, patronize the same hotel, play the same golf. And when there is an alliance of elites, the elite of labor in philanthropy, the elite of leisure does not arrive. So Africans don't become owners. Those who become a civilocracy in philanthropy, whether they are black women and men and brown women and men who are working in global philanthropy, or they are people working at the local level, they now have a class interest to keep the status quo, because the status quo is about their political economy. So it seems to me the coloniality of power in global philanthropy needs to be analyzed together with the imperialism of philanthropism and philanthropization. To transform this, you need to understand that capital and philanthropy are Siamese twins. So when we say the failure of neoliberalism, neoliberalism was from the very onset a racialized ideology which justified historically privileged races from extracting from historically underprivileged and oppressed, and also conscripting the elite from the regions and spaces and places to believe that the system offers a dream to all, that accumulation and concentration of wealth, and then giving a little bit of pieces. The poor shall always be with you. Don't try and deal with wealth creation. The poor will always be poor. To those who have more shall be given. To those who don't have, even the little they have shall be taken away. And so philanthropy was doing this. What am I saying to you? That it's the distribution, redistribution, deployment, investment, and production of philanthropic resources remains entirely unrelated to questions of wealth creation amongst the communities that we seek to give to. So the communities are not becoming wealthy. Their poverty is not really becoming less. It's becoming only bearable. Most philanthropic resources are finite, project-focused, theme-tied, and non-renewable, just like oil and gas. So I've come to ask, how do we find a green transition to philanthropic resources? a sustainable, what are those critical minerals for new philanthropic imaginaries of resourcing? In the old days in Congo, when the Nyiragongo volcano erupted, and then there was a conflict, philanthropists rushed in to give the women of Congo, because of the incidents of rape, ARVs. It was a 9-month project. When the project ended, the caring philanthropists went away. Those of you who know, giving ARVs to people who have no food and then discontinuing after you had started was disaster. They were giving to help and killed helping. You know, after the George Floyd moment, all the big philanthropists started trying to find brown, black, blue, yellow faces to put on their boards. So you could win this DAI contest. Look, if you go to our website and you see Dedra Williams and Brian Kagoro and Naifa and so, oh my God, we are DEI compliant. But does that mean that the natives that populate the public-facing components of these philanthropies have any power? There are things we can do there, but the expectation is that as a black or brown person, you arrive at this position of privilege with appreciation. You leave your soul outside the door. You leave your ideology outside the door. You leave your radicalism outside the door. You sit at the table of the masters and say, so blessed am I, and uplifted. And you even write in this moment, 50 years after liberation in Africa, the first black, the first Asian, the first this. My goodness, my goodness. So this color fixing game has hidden across the globe the deep racist prejudices that inhere in most philanthropy. There has not been the courage to face the challenges of class inequity, the division between global north, global south, the division between men and women, the division between where do we send large grants to, and if we want to give Africa a lot of money, or Asia, we have to find a white person we can trust in South Africa, a white person we can trust in Zimbabwe. I'm sorry, I know those of you who are white, this is not really about you, it's about the system. Right? This color fixing African philanthropy that wishes to leverage its power globally must fight 3 struggles. The local struggle for dignity and agency and knowledge, to end knowledge imperialism. The regional struggle to fight fragmentation and create an ecosystem of mutual support amongst philanthropy. But the global struggle, because you won't have time to do the African philanthropy, you will not be left alone. Because where do you think the rest of us will go? We'll also be trying to gain relevance in your context, right? And so that's, if you noticed all the big philanthropies, the minute Dr. Moyo and Wits started talking about Africa philanthropy in an organized way, they now don't give small or $1 billion, $5 billion, $10 billion. And the rest of us spend our time chasing the billions, and that retains the influence of the status quo. Our ability to imagine alternative means and forms and ways of generating wealth and resources that give us longevity is undermined by the short-term availability of toxic goodness. I work in global philanthropy, and I hope everyone that works with me will watch this, because I say this in salary and I say this in public. Right? Dedra says this internally and we say this in public. Because we're not about to be faces that sanitize continuation of hierarchization of humanity. That some deserve more, some deserve less. Why? Because they don't have capacity. So this constantly, women don't have capacity to manage big amounts of money. Black people don't have capacity to manage, but we don't use women and black. We just say, you know, the institution is in formative stages. It's also because In order for us to comply with C3, C4, C5, or C10, right, we got to make sure that, there's accountability, that the governance is proper, and also, we had issues about their ability to report consistently. It's an institution of 7 people. They are working in a community of 10 million people. You want them to be writing a report every week to you to tell you, Massa, I've used your money as you pleased. We end up dehumanizing the poor. We end up stigmatizing the ability of local knowledge to be transformative. We end up objectifying Africanness, womanhood, or any other status. And we end up disorganizing the broad mass, because money is not always an agent of good. When it is irresponsibly poured, it often creates new hierarchies and contestation within a local. Mischaracterization of the poor as voiceless and brainless. The next frontier of philanthropy is how to ensure that African philanthropy occupies and adopts the struggle to change what global philanthropy looks like, what global philanthropy does, how global philanthropy does what it does. For those of us who, like you, are in global philanthropy, it is for us to stop being self-righteous and thinking that our job is to act as native commissioners to ensure that you are complying with the imperial dictates of goodness, of capacity, and a start. It is the big billionaires, philanthropists that need greater coordination. I don't recall a moment where at the local level, for whatever reason, we were not coordinating. So local philanthropic development must be linked to Pan-African philanthropic development. It must be linked to global Africa aspirations. African philanthropies and Caribbean philanthropies and Black Brazilian philanthropies and European philanthropies must align to produce a narrative of philanthropy which is not only begging the status quo to do things better, but a narrative of philanthropy that begins to reimagine the instruments, the institutions, the processes. It must contest the binary of profit and non-profit. Any of you who had mothers will know that your mother was both a for-profit and non-profit institution. Because for one, she was your mother, but two, she had to sell vegetables, do something to educate you. And the fact that our government still have this very strict for-profit, non-profit bit that's defined, and you don't get a tax incentive as a woman who does philanthropy. But if I come as an external philanthropy, I get a tax incentive. The tax codes need to be reimagined. The binaries need to be reimagined. We need to create regional, national, not just funds, but repository of knowledge, repository of technical support. We need to be African philanthropies giving to other Africans outside their borders. Right now, the limitations on remittances of money in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, and elsewhere are such that even if you wanted to be a Pan-African philanthropist, it's very expensive to give money to your brethren and your sister. The struggle that is facing us is much more than natives being accepted as equal human beings. It is building the future based on our image. And building the future based on our image means contesting, means protesting, means proposing, but it also means walking away, as I am about to do.
I'm a king, go. I'm a king, go.